week 7 is in the books, and it was a great week, man. So many good games, wasn't there, Dustin? Tennessee took down Alabama. That was the biggest game of the week by far. TCU took down Oklahoma. It was just a great week of football. I feel like every week this year just keeps getting better, and it keeps getting wilder.
Yeah, it keeps getting better. This week was full of offense, and it just kept delivering. I'm looking at these games, and I know you talked about TCU and Oklahoma and Tennessee and Alabama, but man, the Penn State-Michigan game, that was wild. That game surprised us. We both thought that game would be close. I think the rest of the country
thumped them.
Right. Like that game should have been like 48-10. The pick six thing like that was just a fluke, man. It wasn't. That game was way out of hand. I actually talked to a guy today who's a big Michigan fan, and he's like, dude, we're dominant right now. And he hates Buckeyes. Obviously, if you're a Michigan fan, you hate the Buckeyes. So the dude kept talking. And it's my buddy Josh Hunt. He's probably watching this. He tunes into the ATC every once in a while. But Josh was, pumped up. And a lot of things that you and I have talked about, Aaron, was that Michigan is definitely set up to beat Ohio State this year. So looking forward to that Week 13 matchup. I know that's going to be on my radar. Big noon. Let's go.
Dude, and that's the first game we're talking about this week to recap. Penn State, Michigan. Michigan just throttled them to 400 yards of offense. Honestly, I think Michigan
418 yards rushing. 418 yards rushing.
Yeah, that's what I meant, rushing. Yeah. I think Michigan, though, in my opinion, is the second best team in the country behind Georgia.
I agree. I mean, Blake Corum, and I can't think of the other running back's name, but man, they just break off with runs. There was in part of the game, it's like one running back scored a 60-yard touchdown. The next running back comes in and immediately scores back-to-back touchdowns over 60 yards. It's like, dude, like that offensive line just towers over that Penn State defensive line. It was just, they were breaking in, tearing holes out anywhere you wanted. They just manhandled that Penn State defensive line. I don't think that's discrediting Penn State at all, but I think we're at a point now where we can look at the Big Ten as a whole, and there's two teams in there. We still need to see Ohio State prove some stuff to us, even though they're not playing down to their competition.
Illinois, I still want to see more, bro. Don't forget about Illinois. Illinois plays just like Michigan. Nasty defense, a great run game. Illinois excites me. I know they're not going to beat Michigan or Ohio State, but I think they're going to win the Big Ten West and compete. But yeah, I mean, so one undefeated went down in Penn State. They were number 10 in the country. We had another undefeated number 9, Ole Miss, play Auburn this week, and they got tested a little bit. For the first time, kind of, Ole Miss, obviously Kentucky tested them, but Auburn unexpectedly tested them. We kind of thought, I jokingly messaged y'all and was like, Auburn over Ole Miss. Man, I honestly was just, I think Brian Harsin sucks. So I thought they were going to get drilled. I was just joking around. And then I turned to the game, and they're coming back. It's like a one-score game in the second half.
So they jumped on – Ole Miss jumped on them quick, man. It was like 21-0 in the first 16 minutes of that game, and then all of a sudden in the third quarter, I'm over at Tyler's house, and we've got the colossal Buffalo Wild Wings setting going on at Tyler's house, where we got like a laptop, 2 monitors, a big screen TV, and we're trying to catch all this in. Next thing I know, like we're trying to watch a Braves game, and we're trying to do this and that. But I look over at the Ole Miss Auburn game, and I'm like, dude, when did Auburn get this closest game? It's 28-24.
I actually went and turned it because I had 2 TVs, and I went and turned it to that one because I was like, why is this score close? And then they went into a weather delay and crap. But anyway, I think Ole Miss is legitimate. I don't think they're going to win the SEC West. I think Alabama's going to come out ticked off and end up winning it. But Ole Miss could go 11-1, 10-2. They could have they're going to have another great season.
Yeah, let Jackson Dart run the ball more. I feel like that's where he is at his best, is when he's running the ball. He had 115 yards rushing. He's one of 3 players that went over 100 yards this weekend. So I'm excited to see that. They definitely run the ball. It's very odd to see a Lane Kiffin offense be run heavy as much as we've seen this year. But, I mean, you got your boy Zach Evans out there. He's not punching coaches anymore. He's ready to go. He's doing everything he can. So I'm all about the Ole Miss, and I'm going to disagree with you, Aaron. I don't know why, but I think Ole Miss, even where their defense is suspect, I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin might just take down the Tide too. So we'll just have to wait to see that.
Not going to happen, man. But our next game is Kansas at Oklahoma, and we're not going to talk long about this. It's mostly just to give credit to Oklahoma. Kansas has a great year, and I thought Kansas played well with a backup quarterback, but Oklahoma we expected to get throttled in this game. Brent Venables had them ready to go. They looked good. They looked like a good team all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about it. Yeah, the defense is trash, but the offense looked good. I mean,
701 yards.
And Kansas has been good on defense, but Kansas, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, Kansas will come back. They'll blow it. Oklahoma will blow it. But they just could not stop them no matter what. So credit to Oklahoma. Still think they're trash. Still hope they don't get bowl eligible. But, hey, they beat Kansas, which they should. It's a basketball school, but I know they're probably tearing down the goalposts in Norman.
18th straight win for Oklahoma over Kansas. Throw that out there, guys. I mean, they're supposed to. So now it looks like normal college football again. Oklahoma beating Kansas. Everything's right in the world now. So we can move on from that.
We lost Aaron.
Service.
That's all right. You can pop back in anytime. I can just kick it right back on. That is the kind of the beauty about this is if something does disconnect, we can just add right back.
Yeah.
That was my bad. My thing timed out because my stuff's set to time out at a certain time, and I forgot to put 24 hours. But yeah, we'll just jump. I mean,
yeah, no, I can just cut that out. That's what I was just saying. It's super easy. So,
yeah. But anyway, yeah, Oklahoma got the W. That's what matters. The next one, though, I think was a little bit of a surprise too. Minnesota, Illinois. We kind of expected Minnesota to win this one, and Illinois straight dominated.
Yeah.
Bad Tanner Morgan showed up 4 for 12 and then left the fourth quarter with an injury. Dude, I think I need to find his yardage, but I think it was like 64 yards.
No,
was it 20?
I think it was like 20-something yards. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 20-something.
I didn't watch that game. Did you watch that game?
I watched a little bit here and there. Illinois straight thumped them, dude. Like Minnesota looked like trash. Tanner Morgan, he I know he left the fourth quarter with injury, but it was almost like he was never there.
Yeah.
He should have been injured before the game started.
Minnesota had 180 total yards with 3 turnovers.
And the only person producing yardage was that running back.
Yeah.
He's off the chain, but the rest of the team sucks.
Yeah, Illinois almost put 500 yards on them. They got smacked.
Illinois is good, man.
Yeah.
Now our next one is the one we all want to talk about. That's Bama, Tennessee.
Yeah,
Tennessee got the upset in the final seconds.
So game of the year, can you all you guys agree on to that? It was just so good. So that game, it had over it was like 1,136 combined yards in that game. I mean, it's a high scoring affair, no defense whatsoever, offense, big plays for Tennessee. Alabama had more penalty yards than they had rush yards in this game, guys. Can you believe that? They're a Nick Saban coach team right now.
Wow.
So Jalen Hyatt with 5 touchdowns on 6 receptions. So that's another wild. It felt like Tennessee just went after him. It just like they would just go to the side a little bit, do a little run play. The next thing they're just coming up and they're just throwing the deep pass in there, catching Alabama off guard. They don't know what to do. Tons of big chunk plays. Love that game. Loved how it ended. And I still want to know why that kick at the end happened for Tennessee. It looked like a finger may have touched it or something like that. I listened to that game.
It was a knuckleball.
I think the lace is wrong.
I listened to the kick. Like I wanted to listen to it. And it sounds like you hear another noise. And then I know like the earth shifted in Rocky Top. So there's tons of noises right now. So I don't know what that was, but it just seemed like to me like something happened there. But I'm going to have to rewatch it again. Maybe someone will analyze that a little bit more, give us a good view and a video of that. But yeah, Alabama, Tennessee, greatest game of the season.
But the thing is, it's Alabama played horrible. Like they penalties everywhere. The defense was leaving people wide open. If that game is played on a neutral site, and I know everyone's high on Tennessee, and they want to say Tennessee's the greatest thing since spread butter. But if you play that game at Alabama or at a neutral site, Bama wins the game
Absolutely.
Probably pretty big.
Yeah, penalties played a big factor, and I will say there's a lot of penalties that were either called or weren't called that are questionable. I mean, we saw a really big PI call that wasn't called, that also had a face mask included. Not to mention the targeting call on Young that wasn't called. That makes no sense. I mean, it should at least be roughing the passer because it was late. There's just a lot of things that just didn't add up in that game. But you're right. If you play that game is played literally anywhere else in the world, Alabama runs away with this game.
Well, and what in the world was Nick Saban, that was the poorest coaching performance he's ever had. What was he doing whenever there's 30-something seconds left? He has the ball in field goal range, and he decides, hey, I'm going to throw it 3 times, throw in 3 incompletions, let my kicker, which we all know that a Bama kicker is going to miss a game-winning field goal. He always does. If Bama loses, it's because their kicker sucks. So you're sending a guy out there that's straight trash in clutch situations. With 19 seconds left to go, he misses it. And then not only that, after he misses it, he should have kicked it with no time left, but instead he leaves him time. Should have ran the ball. Instead he passed. What are you doing? And then after that, he misses it. There's 19 seconds left. Then they go into like a prevent defense. And they let him throw 2 30-yard passes. All of a sudden, they're kicking a 40-yard field goal.
Time is the biggest thing there. I mean, Tennessee had 2 seconds after he caught that ball to call a timeout. That's all they had.
And if he would have made him use that timeout, it goes to overtime. Bama most likely wins.
Right.
The game is already over. I mean, that's exactly it. You at least go into overtime. It was very poor clock management towards the end. I mean, overall, there's a lot of things you can point out in this game that snuck away with this one in a way to me.
Right. At the end of that game, though, it's just like, wasn't that like Hendon Hooker's like Heisman special right there, where he's just chunking the ball down the field? I know Alabama went to prevent defense, and their secondary is just absolutely terrible this year, in my opinion. I know they're young and they'll get better, but just this year it ain't happening for them. But Hendon Hooker was very impressive in those last few seconds.
To me, Bryce Young though made more of a Heisman claim than Hendon Hooker. I know that sounds weird, but Bryce Young put the team on his back, dude. He was getting hit every single play and somehow making something happen.
Right.
I don't even get it. The rest of his team sucks. He's the only good one.
Before you jumped in, I was going to get to that. Bryce Young, 35 completed passes, 455 yards. I mean, I kept looking at him like, all right, he's not getting up this time. He gets up. I'm like, all right, dude, that's ugly. He ain't getting up now. Dude gets up. I'm like, and the dude gets up and he's smiling. Like he's just cheesing around. Like looks like he's having fun out there. And I'm like, you're getting drilled. So
he loves it though, man. That's why he's so good. He loves the game.
We talk about the 2 quarterbacks being the Heisman spotlights for that game. Hyatt only had 1 catch that was not a touchdown. He had 6 receptions for 5 touchdowns.
Dude,
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
So anyway, I mean, I feel like this game didn't get much attention because everyone was watching Bama, Tennessee, but Oklahoma State TCU was a ball game.
Yeah, we were
double overtime to win it.
We had that on a lower screen, and we're like, oh, wait, hold on a second. We got to flip back over here. We got to look at this because I was.
They were getting killed, dude.
Yeah, it
they were down
wild.
14 with 5 minutes left, and the next thing you know, they tied it up, took it to OT. Then it looked like it was over. Oklahoma State was like on a 4th and 9 in overtime, down a touchdown. And the dude throws a dime to like the 2-yard line and they score. And at that moment, I was like, Oklahoma State's going to win this thing in double overtime. Yep. Sure enough, TCU comes out, stops them, holds them to a field goal, scores a touchdown and wins. I think TCU's a real contender. Yeah. Their back was against the wall and they ended up winning anyway.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me is like Max Duggan was benched. And dude, someone else came in and started for him. I can't think of his name right now, and then he emerges back into the game, and like, dude is on fire right now. He's not getting enough recognition across the country.
He'll be in New York for the Heisman, dude.
He probably will.
He'll be there.
He'll be there. But yeah, that was a great game. I wish I could have paid attention more to that game, but man, there were so many things going on.
It was hard to.
The 3:30 slate was just absolutely loaded this week. It's like, what do you do? It's almost like you wish you should have just DVR'd one game and then just watched and made a whole weekend affair out of it and just completely cut yourself off from social media. But that's impossible to do because we know we're all wired to our phones. Someone's going to open their mouth and say, did you see that game? Yeah. You can't do that in this stage. I don't even understand why DVRs exist for sports because if you got that much willpower, to not look at your phone and check a score of a game, props to you.
I've done it before with a Georgia game, but that was when I was at a youth conference. I waited and watched it later.
It's a boomer tool, let's be honest.
But anyway, so we got the next game. We're going to the ACC, and in my opinion, the ACC just gets weaker and weaker every week. You got NC State, Syracuse. The Orange stay undefeated. They actually thumped NC State, and I know it was a backup quarterback, but they made them look stupid. And NC State's supposed to be a top 10 team. Everyone said NC State's going to be a playoff team. I understand their quarterback wasn't there, but you don't get that bad from one player not being there. That's kind of my thing. If Georgia didn't have Stetson Bennett, we'd still be a good team. We wouldn't go out there and get thumped by Syracuse. So it's either Syracuse is really good or NC State's just that bad. I can't figure it out yet. We'll find out this weekend when Syracuse plays Clemson.
Yeah, Devin Leary's a big loss for them. Still, I agree with you, Aaron, 100%. NC State does not look like the team I hyped them up to be in the preseason. So, but Syracuse is that team. Syracuse bring the pressure to Clemson right now, and I'm on the fence right now, just trying to figure out who's going to.
They got a run game. They got a pass game, and they probably have the best defense in the ACC. They have the ingredients to take down Clemson and win the ACC. I don't know that they will, though, but they have the ingredients.
I think the key to taking down Clemson is just having a mediocre defense and competent offense. That's it. Clemson hasn't faced a team with
South Carolina.
Clemson's faced a great Wake Forest team with a really good offense, but not so great defense. But they haven't seen a team that has at least a middle of the road of both. Because Florida State doesn't have a defense, period. They have a decent offense, but that makes piss poor decisions, and that's the reason they didn't win that game. But Syracuse, if they can bring the defense, they can beat Clemson.
Syracuse has the best, and I was saying this preseason, and y'all were like, "What are you talking about?" Syracuse has one of the best running backs in the country, man. And now that they can pass too, it just makes it's a weird ingredient, which leads us to Clemson, Florida State, which played this week. We watched the Criminals go down. It was sad. I know Tyler was upset. That's his playoff team. That's his Cinderella.
And
they've lost 3 in a row. But
they heard me talking about them so much, and you know what? 3 games sounds good.
Yeah. Clemson, in my opinion, just they played all right. They jumped on them. They got up 34-14. But then next thing you know, you could say what you want. Oh, their starters weren't in, blah, blah, blah. That's idiotic. You're only up 20 points in a big game on the road. And then next thing you know, it's 30. It's 34, 28?
Mm-hmm.
And Florida State's onside kicking it to possibly, if Clemson's hands team does something wrong, Florida State gets the ball back and probably wins that game.
Yeah.
That game was, I understand Clemson had a lead, but it's about how you finish. And they didn't finish good. Missouri was beating Georgia the whole time, and Georgia ended up winning the game. In that game, though, Florida State almost stole one.
I agree. Oh, absolutely.
That's the thing. The score to this game, a lot of people probably flipped it over after Clemson went up so high. But at the end of this game, Florida State had 460 yards. That's 90 more than Clemson had. Like I said, Clemson isn't anything special. It's eye candy for those who don't pay close attention to them, or someone who's not a Clemson fan kind of watching in. It really wasn't that impressive. I expected. I guess I would expect more out of a team that's in a top 4 scenario right now, but they're there by default. They don't have a reason not to be there yet. So,
yeah, Dustin, you got any comments on that game? Are you ready to move to the actual conference that matters?
No, y'all pretty much covered it. I think Clemson shows glimmers of hope every once in a while, but overall, I'm just not highly impressed with them. I don't think they're deserving in the spot that they're at. They're at 4 now. Is that right, or is Michigan?
No, they're at 5.
They're at 5. They moved down a spot.
There were 4 at the time. Or at the time they played the game.
I'm going with the brand name now. Just prove me wrong. Georgia's had some ugly wins this season, and other teams are going to have ugly wins sometimes and stuff like that.
Well, every game's been ugly for Clemson.
Well, yeah, but so I can finish. That's what I was getting at. It's every game's been kind of pretty ugly for them. So I'm just thinking, eventually we might see it, but I'm not so sure. Syracuse might take the W this weekend when it comes to it, but we'll get into more of that later. But moving on to Mississippi State and Kentucky, I know Aaron, you're a big fan of both teams here, so you love the Wildcats and you love Mississippi State. So, man, I know you got a lot to say about this. Go for it.
Dude, Kentucky turned it on, man. Kentucky's probably got the best defense in the SEC and one of the best in the country. I mean, they made Mississippi State's passing attack one of the best passing the offense in the SEC, one of the best in the country. They made them look foolish on Saturday night. And Kentucky also, everyone's like, oh, well, it was only a 10-point win. I get that. But they dominated the game. They beat up on them the entire time. And I know Tennessee's looking ahead to Georgia. Tennessee better worry about little old Kentucky coming to town here before the Georgia game, because Kentucky plays good defense. They have a good running game. They have a quarterback that is more than capable of throwing the ball deep. In my opinion, Kentucky looks like the Kentucky they should have. And let's be honest, man, if they don't choke in that game to Ole Miss, they're probably undefeated right now. They don't lose to South Carolina the next week if they beat Ole Miss. And that's kind of Stoops' thing. Every time they lose, they end up losing another one right after. And he's got to fix that if they want to become a good program. Because
I was going to say, I agree with you. I said the reason that Kentucky won that game, or I'm sorry, South Carolina beat Kentucky that week, is because did y'all see Shane Beamer's where he got his sunglasses on and he's getting all the crowd? He's got his little mic up right here singing along, and Mark Stoops calls him out on it, and he says, yeah, we don't do that. We're not up with all that flair and everything like that. I play tough-nosed football here at Kentucky. That's what we're about. And then Shane Beamer goes in there, and he said, yeah, he trying to make us look like a fool, and he comes out there, and he's like, let's dance. He puts back on his sunglasses. He starts going off again. So anyway, just a fun filler in there right now. But I agree with you, Aaron. Kentucky's got a good defense, and I really think, honestly, and I'll get some criticism for this probably, but statistically not, but fundamentally, I think Kentucky has a better defense than Georgia's right now. And that's saying a lot because Georgia's been very impressive this year with all they lost last year. So Kentucky's really set up to, potentially, and I'm going to say probably beat Tennessee in the next few weeks. Oh, no, that's how many
That's
weeks?
2 weeks away.
It's 2 weeks away. They play Kentucky after Georgia.
No, they play them before.
Oh, okay.
They play them the week before.
Gotcha.
So the next game is one that's close to Dustin's heart. The Dookie Blue Devils played the North Carolina Tar Heels. My UNC in their beautiful Carolina blue ended up taking one from Duke in that one. And UNC is silently 6-1, But so that's kind of, UNC ended up pulling it out. Duke looked pretty good, but I feel like UNC is a sleeper to continue to possibly win the Coastal and get to the ACC championship. So they're a team to keep an eye on. No one's talking about them. They got a firepower offense, and the defense is improving weekly. Really don't have much more to say about that game, but I thought it was worth mentioning because the Coastal is on the line. That was a big game for the Coastal Division.
I still think Georgia Tech's going to win the Coastal, and they're going to play Clemson and beat Clemson.
That would be hilarious. And then Deion Sanders is coming to be their coach after they win the ACC. Dude. And then the big game of the week, though, was another undefeated went down in the USC-Utah game. Did y'all get an opportunity to watch that? What'd you think?
I went to bed, but I did wake up feeling pretty good that USC won that game. And I think when I went to bed, it was like 21-7 USC on top. And then when I woke up this morning, when you wake up in the morning, you're rubbing your eyes and you're just like this. And I'm looking at it, I'm like 43-42. I'm like, hold up, what happened here? So I go downstairs, I watch some highlights real quick, and then I'm like, Utah's got some balls, man. They went for 2 at the end of that game to win it. I don't know. That was wild.
Yeah, to me, Utah started slow, but Utah just took over the game, man. You're down. They were down 14 points, and they just battled back. And after that, they were unstoppable. Caleb Williams put up a good fight, but Utah was definitely the better team in that game. And that place was wild.
It looked loud.
It was like the Tennessee-Alabama game, man. Utah fans showed up ready to play. I think right there, I think that showed a lot about USC. I don't think they're going to win the Pac-12. I never really thought they would, but I'm even lower on them now. That was a big loss to take. And now Utah kind of controls their own destiny as to USC does not. So I would say that USC's pretty – that one game, that one loss, I think they're done. They're not a college football playoff team in my opinion. I think they're going to finish 11-1, 10-2, but they're just not going to be able to get there because I don't know that they're going to play for the Pac-12 championship. So, but Yeah, I mean, it was a great week of football, and we saw a lot of undefeateds go down. I think we only have 9 undefeated teams left, so things are getting wild, and some shifts in the rankings. I loved it. It was a lot of fun, some great games. I look forward to this week. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go around the country, and we're going to have some of our fans that watch this show tell us a little bit about their team, tell us where their team's at, and then we're going to make our comments. We might be mean, we might be nice. There's no telling. It just depends on what you say. Y'all know we like to blast people sometimes. Well, I do. Dustin's a little nicer than me. So anyway, we're going to flip to those videos and let you see what's going on around the country.
Hey guys, this is Clay with Clemson. So I'm going to talk about Saturday's game against FSU. We won 34-28. DJ threw for 203 yards. We had 3 touchdowns, 3 red zone trips, scored all 3. Puts us at 35 of 35 inside the 20, something to think about. Then Will Shipley, dude's a monster, man. 20 carries for 121 yards, 6 catches for 48 yards, 238 all-purpose yards. That's with a kick return of 69 yards. Problem I have, we only play 2 quarters, man. We did put our backups in around the middle of the third quarter on defense. A little bit on offense. We kept DJ in the whole game, but defense, man, we got really conservative. I don't know why Clemson does that. They do though. FSU almost made a comeback in the late fourth quarter. I mean, they scored 2 touchdowns. So reality is, it wasn't a close game up until the end. I think it's because we had our backups in. We were playing conservative. Doesn't matter. Either way, we should have won by 3 touchdowns, and that's it. We got Syracuse coming up next weekend. I'm picking Clemson by 1 touchdown. I'm going to make a bet with Aaron here. If Aaron picks Syracuse to win, Aaron, on my expense, I will be shipping you all Clemson gear if Clemson wins this game, and you have to wear it for 1 full show. All right? One last thing I want to talk about, probably going to stir the pot a little bit. Clemson should still be in the top 4. I don't think Michigan deserves that number 4 spot yet. AP polls are relevant. Doesn't matter anyways. Just my own opinion. Love the show, guys. Really appreciate you letting me be on this and represent Clemson. Have a good one.
What's up, All Talk Conference? Win here, giving a quick update on the A&M Aggies. We're coming out of the bye week undefeated, so that's a huge start for us as a program that we didn't lose. And so we're still waiting on a couple key injuries to heal. Our starting linebacker, Andre White, got hurt in our first game. He is probable for this week, but he still hasn't seen the field. Haynes King came out of the Alabama week in a boot. So Jimbo said today in his presser that he's available for Saturday, but I'd be surprised if we didn't see true freshman 5-star Connor Wigman at quarterback at some point against the Gamecocks. And so, injuries, we need to heal up and look forward to going on the road to South Carolina, which seems like an easy game, but they are primed. If they beat A&M this weekend, they can start this season 7-2, which would be huge for that program and for Beamer and his rebuild there. And so it's not going to be an easy one for A&M. We have yet to play a conference game at home, and we're going into the mid-October. And so whoever's scheduled for the SEC, screw you guys. That's kind of lame. Give us some home games. And so hopefully A&M, I think it's going to be a grind all the way through in this game. Probably, I predict A&M to win at some point. Talent's got to win at some point. And so it's going to be a grind, though. So I predict the Aggies to win. But, yeah, we'll see. Peace, everyone. Enjoy.
Hey, guys. Joshua here. I'm going to talk about the Florida Gators football program a little bit. Just had a tough 45-35 loss to LSU at home. It was particularly tough because our offense did enough to win. Our special teams did enough to win. But our defense was atrocious. And that's probably put it nicely. We didn't do anything well. LSU's first 6 drives of the game, they put up 476 yards and 6 touchdowns. Went 8 for 12 on third downs for the game. The only 2 third downs they didn't get, they got 2 fourth downs. Made Jalen Daniels look like the second coming of Lamar Jackson. It's getting tough for Florida to continue to watch the defense play this way. We don't do anything particularly well. We don't rush the passer well. When we do, we don't contain the quarterback. We struggle tackling. Angles are terrible. Trying to be optimistic. We're under a new coach. We've been blaming Grantham for the defense, but I think now we're seeing it's just a lack of talent. So we got to get a lot of new talent in, which Napier is recruiting well. Our offense has been, today we were better, but overall it's just been kind of inconsistent. We got a strong running game, but Richardson's very inconsistent. The passing game's inconsistent. We got a bye week next week, and then we get Georgia, which is probably going to be a loss. I think right now Florida's looking at 6-6, which we got to get the 6 wins to get bowl eligible and get those extra practices in. I guess just right now it's going to be a long, painful rebuild. It's going to be a little longer than we thought. So we're probably looking, hope we'll get a little improvement next year, and then maybe year 3 we'll see something. So tough day for the Gators, but we'll bounce back, and who knows, maybe we'll shock everyone and knock Georgia off. Not counting on it, but you got to be optimistic. So there'll be better days ahead for Gator Nation.
Hey, good evening, guys. Good evening, All Talk Conference. This is Uncle Freddie coming at you with the Dog Report. So on Saturday, we played Vanderbilt, played them well. Gave them a big goose egg on their side of the scoreboard, but 55 on ours. Had a good balanced attack running-wise and passing-wise. Stetson threw a couple of touchdowns for the first time in 4 weeks. Our running backs, the young guys, Robinson, Edwards, looked good. McIntosh threw a little bit in there as well. Plus, our tight ends looked great. That's all fine and dandy. We're 7-0. I don't know how we're still ranked number 1 in the country. We have been on the struggle bus sometimes. But I tell you what, coming up, we got a bye next week. And then it gets a little bit serious for the Dogs. We face Florida, we face Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and then the Bumblebees from North Avenue in Atlanta. So it can be challenging, but we're looking forward to the challenge. We'll see how the Dogs do this year, and hopefully we can still make it to Atlanta for the SEC Championship. Thanks so much for having me. Back to you guys.
Reporting for the K-State Wildcats. All I want to say is, we're rolling right now, but I'm not sold on us yet. Because one thing about K-State is we always had a problem with inconsistency. But I like the way this season is heading, though. The defense is playing great. We do have some depth in the secondary, but the problem is when we rotate, those guys are still freshmen. They're making mistakes. That's why we've been giving up a lot of big plays in the secondary. And our communication has not been as good some of these games. Iowa State, it was a whole lot better, but also helped us that some of the players dropped some key passes. Like I said, we were not great last 2 weeks ago against Iowa State. We were not. Our defense was solid, but our offense made too many mistakes. We should have won 20-9, but we got to fix that because now we're playing a good TCU team that's got a lot of offensive weapons. The defense is all right, but I think K-State can win that game, but we can also lose it. I'm hoping Chris Kleiman gets our boys right because if they don't, it's going to be rough for us because it's going to be hard to beat TCU at TCU. We can do it because K-State's done it before. Like I said, we got a good defensive line, a pretty decent offense. But like I said, for our season to go the way we want it, A.J. Martinez has got to keep performing.
Clay Williams, come on, man. You're telling me that they put in their second string when it was a close game? That didn't happen, dude. They rotate a ton of players. Your team almost lost. You almost blew it. And you're calling me about Syracuse? Yeah, I got Syracuse. I'll wear Clemson gear if you want me to because Syracuse is getting the win. But you have to do something for me when Syracuse gets the win. I choose what it is. I'll say it on the air next week after Syracuse shut your team up and y'all fall out of the top 10. Go Orange.
Are you going to ship out some Gamecock gear for Clay or something like that? I'm just interested. I got to have a hint right now what you're going to do for that.
I think he needs to be a big Beamer ball guy. He needs some sunglasses. He needs to record us a nice little video.
So Clay, you made a comment about Michigan not being good. I have to disagree with that. I think Michigan is that team right now. I think they're good. I think they're in a league with Ohio State and the Big Ten. I think it's just those two teams and everyone else. About the backups coming in. From what I understand,
y'all better leave your starters in.
From what I understand, I thought there was a lot of injuries in the secondary. I don't know if you're specifically talking about the secondary or up front. If you can elaborate on that in the comments, we'll appreciate that. But to let us know. But and another comment, dude, Will Shipley is that dude. Last year he had a rough season. He got hurt and everything like that. But now he's emerging as that top recruit that we all knew and that player he could be. And I'm really excited to see how he unfolds through the remainder of his debut at Clemson for the rest of this year and for next year. So
I thought he looked good last year. I just think last year they couldn't pass. He got injured, obviously, but before he did, I mean, he looked solid when he was there. But when you can't pass the ball and everybody's just going to stop the run, it's a different game. So I think DJ has made Shipley look a lot better this year.
Definitely,
DJ looks good, man.
Definitely, Will Shipley reminds me a little bit of a Christian McCaffrey type player. He could catch the ball. He can go in different. He could do anything right now. So I'm a fan of Will Shipley.
It's because he's got to make up for DJ's shortcomings.
Yeah. But so the next team is Sweat was talking a little bit about Florida, and man, I think Florida's in trouble. Y'all might get to 6-6. I could see 5-7. AR looks good this week, but the defense gets worse. It's like 1 week the offense is good and the defense is bad. The next week the defense is good and the offense is bad. I don't understand. I do believe in Napier, though. I think he's a good coach, a good guy. I think he'll build this program back up. But old No Neck Mullen just left them in a bad situation.
Yeah, man, you got left with the clown car and everything in it except his wife. He took her with him.
Hey, maybe if she would have kissed them, they could have pulled it out Saturday.
It's rough, man. Napier's I think he's gonna be okay. Definitely hard to be a Florida fan at the moment. You just kind of take positive one by one. Hey, look, I'm all for being optimistic, but beating Georgia, that's a tall task, sir.
Oh, yeah. I agree with both of you guys. Billy Napier is that guy that's going to turn this program around. It's just unfortunate right now. It seems like everyone in the SEC is more so on the rise than they have been because we've had a down year, especially in the East, or down few years in the East, probably the last 5, 6, maybe we might go into like 8 years. But anyway, I want to give props where props are due. And like that run by Anthony Richardson, did y'all see that 81-yard touchdown run? Yeah. Dude, I watched that video like 4 times. I'm like, this dude broke like 6 tackles and just kept going. Anthony Richardson, he's exciting most of the time. I just wish he could be that complete package guy until he plays Georgia.
He's just a wish.com hooker right now. I mean,
yeah.
And Florida's going to get thumped by Georgia. Brandon Burns, Kansas State, 5-1 is pretty good, but I think you're going to lose your next 6 games. So enjoy 5-1 because you might go 5-7.
Look, I know it's got to be a fun year being a Kansas State fan, but man, TCU is going to bring it to you guys. It is not going to be a pretty game. As much as I wish that I could be positive about that, that is not a game I feel like Kansas State is going to be competitive in.
No, 5-7 at worst, 7-5 at best for Kansas State.
It's a tough schedule going through the rest of the season.
They don't lose the remainder of their 6 games. They're going to pop out at least 2 wins, maybe. Yeah, maybe 2.
Maybe win somewhere.
Maybe 3 if they get extra lucky. But, so we got Texas A&M, guys. And, I can't. Jim Blow, I just think he's a terrible coach. They're going to lose to South Carolina this week, man. I hate to say it when I think you're right. There's some injuries going on. Y'all have some talent. And eventually talent does have to take over. It ain't going to be this weekend. Maybe next year y'all have a competitive team. I don't know what is going on in College Station. I don't know why your AD would agree on that schedule. If you haven't played a SEC home game, your AD needs to go fix that. That's a problem. But I just think they're in shambles, man. No offense. You got a good defense, but you eventually have to play some offense to win the game. South Carolina wins this weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like the Beamer ball.
I think South Carolina has got some enthusiasm now after they upset Kentucky coming off this bye week. I think South Carolina rolls. I think South Carolina wins a close one.
And lastly, the Dogs. The Dogs dominated Vanderbilt. I think they're kind of past their woes. They've looked dominant the last 2 weeks. They're turning it on, man. I think they're seeing teams get upset. They're seeing Bama look bad, and Kirby, he's awoken a beast, and they looked that way against Vanderbilt. Hey, I'm with you, Freddie. They're good.
Stetson finally threw a touchdown pass, like he said.
We got 2 or 3.
One is better than the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carson Beck came in garbage time, and he looked really good.
You got to see Gilbert,
he's
too.
fire.
Yeah, Reed Gilbert finally came in. Is it Eric or Arik? I should know this as a Georgia fan.
I think it's Arik.
I'm just going to keep calling him Gilbert.
We'll call him Reeky.
What's eating Gilbert great? He's back at least.
So, guys, we get to the funnest part of talking college football, and that is we're going to predict our Final Four. We're going to start with Dustin because we're midway through the year. So we said at midway point, we're going to all say our Final Four now that we have evidence on who's good and who's not. Our preseason teams, it's hard to tell. You don't really know, but now we can make an educated guess. And I'll tell you what, we want everybody to post who their Final Four is going to be. Next week, we'll even take videos and we'll play some of them and we'll kind of break down some of them because this Final Four talk is going to keep going on and on and on. But if you get all four right, you will get a prize from the All Talk Conference. But we're going to have Dustin lead off with his Final Four, and then we'll go to Tyler, then I'll give mine.
All right. So first off, I've got Georgia rolling in. I think they're going to get by a tough Tennessee team. I think they just win out, and they're going to get in. Even if they lose the SEC championship, I still think the rest of college football it's going to play itself out, where Georgia's still going to be in contention to be in that playoff, even if they lose the SEC championship, whether it be to Alabama or Ole Miss. It's probably one of those two teams in the West. Next, I've got Bama. You think? Yeah, probably Bama. We'll see how that plays out. Next, from the Big Ten, it's really a toss-up, guys, between Ohio State and Michigan, and it's really tough. I just got a feeling Ohio State's going to come back out for revenge. Dude, I can't talk. I don't even know why you asked my opinion. If you keep chopping in, just shut up for a minute so I can talk, man. Come on, dude. So Ohio State.
Dang, dude, you can't take a distraction and keep talking. I'm just trying
to give you a point, man. All right. So
earlier you said you thought Michigan was going to beat Ohio State, so I'm confused.
I haven't been able to finish yet. So hold on. So Ohio State doesn't win.
Ohio State wins. He changed his mind from earlier.
No, so Ohio State wins. I think they're coming out for vengeance after what happened, what Jim Harbaugh said about him last year and everything like that. I think Ohio State will win this game. It'll be close. I think, however, Michigan is set up to beat Ohio State, but I'm going with my gut on this one rather than my head, and I'm going to choose Ohio State to take off that next seed in the college football playoff. My next team in here, this was a tough one because I think Oregon is going to win out, but I also think Clemson is going to win out. However, I'm going to take Oregon instead because I think Syracuse is going to upset Clemson this weekend, and I'm going to take Oregon to win out. And that first loss of the season to the Bulldogs, I think that's going to be overlooked, and they're going to be like, all right, we're going to throw Oregon in there. Oregon's going to have a UCLA team come in this weekend at home. Oregon's been great at home. Oregon comes out, and I think they absolutely dominate UCLA by 2 to 3 touchdowns. And then next, I've got Tennessee, who's going to get in there. And I know I'm probably going to be crazy. Y'all are going to criticize the heck out of me for saying this. So I think what's going to happen is Tennessee's going to lose to Georgia, and then Tennessee's going to be sitting right there. They don't have to play in the SEC championship, and they're going to get in. And I think they beat Kentucky. I think they went out other than playing Georgia.
Earlier, you said you thought they were going to lose to Kentucky.
I said they could. However, I think Tennessee.
I just got to give you crap.
I know, man. But yeah, that's what I got. So I got Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Tennessee as my college football playoff.
I like it, dude. No Clemson.
Who
you got, Tyler?
All right, so I've done a little bit of changing. I think I got too deep in the weeds on scenarios yesterday, and I think I've kind of come up with something I'm a little more happy about. It's a little more chaotic.
It means everybody loses so Florida State can get in, right?
Florida State 1 seed.
Okay, all right. There is a possibility in there somewhere. Okay, all right. So, number one, I think I have to put Georgia there because I would have them winning out the rest of the season and the SEC championship, beating whoever belongs to the West. Ohio State will be in that second spot. I don't see them losing. Michigan is a threat, but Michigan's a threat. I will, and this is my thing. I will pick Michigan in that game because I'd like to see Michigan win. Would I be shocked if Ohio State wins? No, that's just the way it is. That's how I do.
I agree.
So Georgia, Ohio State, given. I think my initial ones were also I actually had Alabama and Ohio State, but so I've changed since clearly. The last two are going to be a little different. Okay, I'm actually going to go with TCU at 3 because I don't think Clemson's going to make it undefeated through the regular season and their conference championship. I think they either lose once or twice somewhere in there. So I'm going to take them completely out of the conversation. They're not going to be in 1, 2, 3, or 4, maybe 6 if they're lucky and the college football rankings are friendly enough.
Maybe top 25.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be there. Will I be shocked if they prove me wrong? Absolutely not. Everybody's capable of making things happen, and I'm just an opinion. So I have TCU at 3 as instead of my Clemson. I think is where I had them initially, and in 4 I have Tennessee. Like Dustin said, Tennessee could potentially roll through this with only 1 loss, and they're going to look like the best team in the country with 1 loss. It's to a Georgia team who just basically ran the table against everyone, including the SEC champion. I don't see a reason why you don't have Tennessee in that conversation. I would almost bet that they would play it like a Georgia-Alabama situation, and you have them play each other in the first round and have Tennessee at 4. So Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Tennessee, add some different names in there. I think it'll be to me that sounds like a fun playoff. I don't know. Maybe
we have about the same pick other than I got a Pac-12 team, you got a Big 12 team. I like the TCU pick, though.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm following up with I think Georgia is going to be the 1 seed. I think Georgia's going to run the table. I'm with y'all. I think we all agree. I don't think that's because we're Georgia fans either. I think that's simply because right now they look like the best team in the country. And people can argue, but if we look at the numbers and we look at the facts, they're right there. At number 2, I got Michigan. I think Michigan's going to beat Ohio State again. I was not high on Michigan. I did not think they would be good this year. I honestly thought they would lose 3-4 games. I had them going 8-4, 9-3. But I watched them thump Penn State. I watched them dominate them. I mean, they manhandled them, dude. That's grown men football they play. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they're going to win out. So I got Michigan at 2. I got UCLA at 3. I think UCLA is going to get out alive. I unlike Dustin, I think they're going to beat Oregon this week. I trust Chip Kelly over Dan Lanning, although I like Dan Lanning a whole of a heck of a lot more. I can't stand looking at Chip Kelly. Butterball. But, I just trust his coaching. He's been there. He's done that. This is Dan Lanning's first rodeo, and the last time it was a big football game that he had time to prepare for, Georgia beat their brains in. I think UCLA wins a close one. I think UCLA might drop a game somewhere, but I think they're going to win the Pac-12 with 1 loss. And at number 4, I got TCU. TCU could be at 3 and UCLA at 4. Those are interchangeable. I think TCU might drop 1 game, but I still think they're going to win the Big 12. And honestly, the teams that I considered other than those 4 were Tennessee. I think they have a legitimate shot at going 11-1, but in my scenario, even if they went 11-1, it would not be enough. They'd be sitting at number 5 because it's be conference champions. Yeah. And then more than that, I considered Bama. I think everyone's counting Bama out. I think we got to look into Ole Miss. We've got to look into Syracuse even because Syracuse could get things done. North Carolina could somehow run the conference. The ACC is so weak that North Carolina could win out and win the conference. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there's a lot of teams to consider. But I'm going with Georgia, Michigan, UCLA, and TCU. And honestly, I think it's going to be a Georgia-Michigan national title. I think it would be awesome if it was a Georgia-TCU national championship. TCU could knock off Michigan. I saw that stat that David White put out there the other day, that they had like 9 players that run over 21 mile an hour on their team. And the NFL only has 3 right now playing. Yeah. So TCU is fast. They're for real, man. And the Horny Frogs, they're coming out to win, man. I like them. But yeah, so let's talk about some possible scenarios because this could get wild.
Yeah. Well, while we're going off the playoff, I think when you look at scenarios right now, and we talked, we had a little talk yesterday about all these possible scenarios we have, and there's so many out there. I think we popped off like 15 different scenarios. We got to have playoff expansion. thank God it's happening. And if you disagree with it, you've lost your mind. Who doesn't want more college football games?
Boomer.
Yeah, like you got to have it. I don't care about like, oh, well, people are going to opt out for these games, so they can get ready for the NFL. Have we had anyone for a college football player opt out of a college football game? I can't think of one. If I'm wrong, please show me in the comments and tell me someone, because I tried looking it up. I could not find a single person unless they were riddled with injuries or if it was unfit for them to come back. Another thing, too, people talk about is like players getting hurt. Dude, you get hurt at practice. You get hurt playing a game and stuff like that. What's 2 more games for it? Players are going to be pumped up to play these games right now. So we got to have the college football playoff. We got to have more games. We got to cause some fairness for college football right now so that we cannot have like certain teams, like, for instance, I say Tennessee does go 11-1 and they get left out. Dude, you know how Tennessee fans are. They're going to have golf balls and mustard bottles thrown everywhere. People are going to get ticked off about that. They're going to get
left out.
And then like the winner, or I'm sorry, the loser between Michigan and Ohio State. And all of us think that Michigan and Ohio State are going to win out until it gets to that game. Whoever gets left out of that, it's going to suck for them. If you have conference championships over here, let's say UCLA wins the Pac-12 and they're undefeated, and it causes, a Michigan or a Tennessee or Ohio State to get left out there. Got to have expansion, man. Glad it's happening.
Penn State's going to beat Ohio State, by the way. But, Tyler, what were you going to say?
Penn State's not beating Ohio State.
No way.
They're about to thump them boys.
I think the biggest thing that people forget about anything in the conversation of football expansion is that the most exciting sports in the world all have a awesome playoff bracket of some sort. Nobody has to pick just 2 teams off of some computer-generated BS that says, "Oh, these are the 2 best teams," and they give us Notre Dame. Like, are you kidding me? Now we have 4 teams, and we still struggle with the fact that we have 4 more teams that could fit in that same conversation. There's arguments to be made for those. I just don't see a reason why people would be upset with more football, with bowl games that. Not even that, because I think they talked about these being home games, but even like further expansion down the road, turn some of these lame bowl games that nobody watches into competitive football games.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense not to.
I think too, like anybody that thought it was cool to vote on a number 1 team, I don't trust your judgment anyway. All these old people have a problem.
Right.
It's like y'all were okay with the worst system ever created. I don't even consider anyone to win a national championship before 1998. You didn't play for one.
No.
You got voted. I can go vote Georgia 10,000 times to win it every year. We're 6-6 national champions. Like UCF won it.
I'm just glad that we're getting to a system now where it's like you look at, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen Mike Leach talk about playoff expansion or anything like that. I encourage everyone listening to go find that video. I might even post it after this show tonight and just share it with you guys. But Mike Leach goes off and he says, well, let's see what the NFL does. All right, this is how they do it. College football playoff is going to essentially look like the NFL playoff now, with the exception of like 2 less games or something like that. Anyways. And then you look down, let's start it like high school. And then you look at high school like that. They have a bracket. That's how they go off on. And it keeps going up that way. And just college is sitting there in the middle. We've not had that same fundamental, playoff that everyone needs to see.
Well,
and go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, you got to have something, because this year it could end up being a disaster. Let me ask you this. What happens if Georgia beats Tennessee, Bama wins out, Bama beats Georgia, and Ole Miss goes 11-1. You have Tennessee 11-1. You have Ole Miss 11-1. You have Georgia 12-1. You have Bama 12-1. What do you do there? Then you have an Ohio State sitting at 11-1, a Michigan sitting at 13-0. And then let's go to the other way. I mean, UCLA could go 13-0. UCLA could go 12-1, and Oregon could win the conference and be 12-1. You could have multiple 1-loss teams that are deserving to play another week that do not get the opportunity because we're saying, hey, let's just have 4 teams. That's idiotic. That's stupid. It makes 0 sense. You want those 4 teams if you're a Bama fan, because Bama's in there every year. You want those 4 teams if you're a Clemson fan, because guess what? You play in a sucky conference and you can sneak into the playoff. But if there's a real playoff, you won't win it. So that's the reality here. And I think there's multiple scenarios that could get ugly. Let's kind of look at some of those scenarios. What are ones that stick out to y'all the most?
I think I've covered pretty much mine. It's just, the whole thing about possibly Michigan or Ohio State getting left out. I think the Tennessee in my playoff is a crazy scenario, even though it's not unlikely. But it's just hard to believe that happening. I think a lot of the crazy scenarios can be put in the SEC as a whole. Like you were saying, the Ole Miss, Bama, Tennessee, Georgia situation there. The Pac-12 could get kind of messy depending on how that plays out. I mean, what happens if you have an Oregon – let's say UCLA beats Oregon this week, and then Oregon and UCLA get in a rematch, and then Oregon beats UCLA, and then you got a two-loss Oregon Pac-12 championship team who lost to the number one team in the country in the beginning of the season. And then they rematched and beat UCLA, who beat them. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You don't think Oregon deserves it, though?
No. I mean, with two losses, I don't. Yeah, maybe. I think they could beat somebody in the playoff. I'm with you. But for the Final Four, there's no way they'd be in the Final Four. I think where the big problem lies this year is the ACC people that are all about the Final Four. Because Clemson gets in it every year. I think they're the ones going to be whining this year because the conference is so bad. One loss is going to keep that conference out of the college football playoff this year. If Clemson does not go undefeated or Syracuse does not go undefeated, I don't think they get in. That's the reality, unless the country just beats the mess out of each other, which could happen in the Big 12 and the Pac-12. They could just beat each other up. And I think, guys, there's a high chance that Georgia beats Tennessee than Bama beats Georgia. It happened last year. That's three good teams, and I don't know what you do in that situation. So
it's going to be ugly.
Tyler, what's the scenario you got? Have we covered the ones you're thinking?
I mean, the craziest one I think I've kind of sat on is Tennessee beating Georgia and then losing big to Alabama in the SEC championship, and then you have a weird situation where you've got, say you have a one-loss Georgia that just lost Tennessee that didn't make it to the SEC championship. You have a one-loss Tennessee that's beaten Alabama once already, that's beaten Georgia, and then it's now lost big to Alabama that has beaten them. Like, there's three teams there that, and then you still have to factor in whoever's out of the Big Ten, if there's a clear cut like Clemson or somebody out of the ACC, or if the Pac-12 has somebody that's undefeated. But that just makes that scenario so much more chaotic and just speaks volumes to the need for an expansion. But you can go on for days and days about crazy scenarios. It's just it's fun. They'll eventually play out, but yeah.
So who's y'all's sleeper? I think mine. I mean, obviously TCU I think is kind of a sleeper, and I got them in there. UCLA as well, but I think another one is Syracuse. Syracuse looks good right now. Who do y'all kind of have as a sleeper?
Well, I didn't put a Big 12 team in my college football playoff just because I thought the Big 12 as a whole was going to cannibalize themselves and ultimately lead to a situation where they're just going to beat up on each other, so no one gets in. But I'm with you guys. Both of y'all picked TCU in the playoff. I think they're my sleeper team. In addition to that, I'm going to throw in Clemson too. Let's say Clemson beat Syracuse this weekend. I think they could possibly run the table until they get to the ACC championship, whether it be North Carolina
say they're
or Georgia
a sleeper,
Tech.
Though.
They're not really a sleeper, but I'm going to say more than likely what I'm getting at is like this is my 5 and 6 team. Does that make sense more so than a sleeper? If I had to go with a sleeper for me, I think maybe UCLA.
UCLA. I think Oregon's a sleeper too. I mean, you have them in your playoffs, so you've already covered them, but I definitely think Oregon's a sleeper.
Yeah, TCU and Oregon are my choices for sure.
Yeah, and so with that being said, I just think it's going to be an awesome finish. I'm so excited about the possibilities here. I do think some of it will play itself out, and we'll see teams lose. It always happens. It's always been easy on the committee. I want it to be so hard on the committee that they lose sleep over it, though. So what we're going to do now, man, is we'd love for y'all to put your Final Four down. We want to hear all about them. We want to hear your scenarios. We want to talk about them as well. But
do we need to give a deadline? Do we need to get a deadline for everybody's Final Four? Let's say before Saturday starts, like say Friday at 8 p.m., something like that.
Send them by Friday.
Send them to Tyler by Friday night. Your Final Four, and we'll I'll put out a comment on Facebook, just kind of sharing what we want out of that. We don't want the videos to be too long, probably just a minute long video, you saying who you think your Final Four is and who a sleeper is maybe. But with that being said, y'all want to go into picking this week because it's another big week of football. So it's always fun to talk about the playoffs and talk about who's going to get in. We'd love to hear what y'all have to say, but we're going to go into our picks now. And our first game this week is a noon game. I don't know why it's at noon. I wish it was a night game, because if it was a night game, I'd probably go Syracuse at Clemson. Who do y'all got?
I'm taking the Cuse.
Same.
I got the Orange, man. I think their running game strong. I think their passing game strong. If this game was at Syracuse, I would probably be more confident. I am kind of worried Clemson pulls it out, though. So we all kind of agree. That's awesome. Y'all normally are like, Clemson, man. Clemson's the best, But no, me and Tyler bash Clemson. Dustin's the one that keeps things on the rails. Then you got Kansas at Baylor. Who y'all got in that one?
It's crazy to me because I'm like, can I see Kansas losing 3 straight? And yes, I can. I'm taking Baylor because I think Baylor needs a win. They've kind of struggled this year. They've got 3 losses, and they're not as good as we thought they would be. So I think Baylor, it's at home. So I think Baylor comes out and they win this game.
Yep. I'm with Baylor as well.
I got Baylor.
Baylor playing at home. It's probably a closer game than I'd have to guess. But
yeah, I got Baylor, though. I think it's going to be a tight one, but ultimately, I think Kansas is a really good team. Going to Baylor, it's hard to play if you're anybody.
Yep.
West Virginia at Texas Tech. I'm going with the Mountaineers, man. I think they got some momentum after winning last Thursday night. Got a couple extra days to get healthy for the game. West Virginia wins this one. JT Daniels is on fire right now.
I want to take Texas Tech, but I'm with you on that, Aaron. I'm taking West Virginia too.
Yeah, I've liked West Virginia since the first week, so I'm gonna
Me too, man.
I'm going to continue to pick them in closer games. So yeah, I'm going with West Virginia in this one too.
Ole Miss at LSU. LSU's actually a favorite in this game, and Ole Miss is undefeated. It's crazy to me. I don't understand that. You got the number 9 team in the country going up against a team that's 5-2, and they're not a favorite. With that being said, I'm going with LSU to win this game.
Ooh. I'm taking Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Ole Miss.
LSU, I think, is going to pull this one out, man. I just got a feeling there's a reason Vegas has them as a favorite. I don't know why. On this one, I'm rolling with Vegas.
This would be a big win for old Brian Kelly if he pulls this out. Yeah,
he needs a good statement win.
I hope Ole Miss wins. I do. But I don't know, man. Going to Death Valley, LSU looked good against Florida. Their offense is humming. We'll see how it goes. Texas at Oklahoma State.
Hook 'em horns. Give me Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Oklahoma State's. Oh, I hold up some horns for you. Oklahoma State's a little bit banged up right now too. I think Texas wins pretty convincingly.
If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd probably said Oklahoma State.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
I agree with you. Mississippi State at Bama. And before we go into this, I think Mississippi State presents some problems for Bama because we saw that secondary against Tennessee. It looked very weak, and Mississippi State can sling it around the yard. I think they could pose a threat to Alabama in this game. With that being said, I still think Alabama wins. I think they show up. They play a good game. I think the game's closer than the spread. I think the spread's like 23 points. I think that Mississippi State competes in this game. And I know everyone has this idea it's a mad Bama coming to town. I get that, but this Bama team seems different to me. They commit too many penalties. I don't know if they have the mentality of all the other Bama teams.
So there's nothing scarier than Shark Week than playing Bama after they lose a game. So I'm taking Bama. Bama dominates this game.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Aaron.
I'm going to take Bama for a few reasons. 1 being the obvious loss. 2 being it's a home. 3 being they cannot lose another game in the West. So they have to win. This is a must-win for Bama. I don't think they lose this game.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bama wins. I just think it's going to be closer than what most think.
I can get on board with a close game, but I honestly think that we're about to see the emergence of Heisman winner Bryce Young is about to continue that streak that he had last week in terms of just passing. I think he's going to really hurt Mississippi State through the air, but we'll see. I'm fine with
Mississippi State's got a good defense too, man.
That's true.
It's a tough matchup for Bama, but obviously I'm rolling with Bama. I don't really pick against the Tide. I've learned my lesson many times. But Minnesota at Penn State. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
I was saying, but what we're all getting at is we're not going to be surprised if Mississippi State wins this game. No, I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
anyway,
not at all.
No.
Sorry,
Minnesota
I had to throw that in there.
Minnesota at Penn State. I got Penn State in this one. Minnesota's looked terrible.
Yeah. Minnesota just, I don't. Penn State's offense looked anemic. I can't figure out if it was Michigan's defense or if it was more just the fact that they just didn't have as much offense as we thought. But I don't think that Minnesota is a threat to Penn State, so go Penn State.
I think it'll be close, but Penn State, yeah.
Penn State, they're pissed after losing to Michigan like they did. They're going to come out and make a statement win.
And then beat Ohio State the next week. Texas A&M at South Carolina.
Cox.
I already said South Carolina. I've already drilled that one, so I'm South Carolina all the way. It's at South Carolina. I just think they're a better team.
Yeah, give me some Beamer ball.
K-State at TCU. We already talked about this one too. I got TCU big.
TCU ginormous.
TCU by 30.
I don't know about by 30. It might be by about 10, but TCU's just too fast, man. It's that TCU. In the last game, the game of the week, in my opinion, UCLA at Oregon, number 9 versus number 10, college game days there. Who y'all got in this one?
Do y'all have Aflac insurance?
No.
Oregon does. Oregon wins.
Aflac. Actually, as much as I like Oregon, I'm going to pick UCLA to win this game. Because UCLA was my other team that I was like struggling with between TCU to put in my top 4. So I'm going to continue to pick UCLA until they really prove me wrong. I have absolutely no faith in homeboy at UCLA, but maybe he proves me wrong. I think the Mariota national championship was about as good as it gets for him. I don't think Brian Kelly is able to find that hot streak again, but we'll see. Maybe.
You mean Chip Kelly?
Sorry, Chip Kelly. Yes, that's what I meant. Chip Kelly. Sorry.
If this game was at a neutral site or at UCLA, I take UCLA every time. But Oregon has just done something fantastic. It's like going into Disney World every time you get Oregon plays at home. They're doing magical things out there.
I like
Oregon wins this game. Oregon wins this game big too. I know it's a bold statement, but I'm taking Oregon big.
Oregon's that stupid team that I just have an allegiance to for no reason, but I'm going to go against everything that I have and pick UCLA this week.
And I said this earlier. I trust Chip Kelly over Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning's a young coach. The prep for a big game. All the eyes are on them. College game days in town. I think Oregon will have a good showing. I just think DTR for UCLA is too good, man. He puts the game on his shoulders. Dude's going to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy. He's legit. UCLA wins this one, which leads us to our final thing. Who is y'all's super dog of the week? The team that is more than a touchdown dog that you're saying, hey, they are going to win this game outright.
Right now, Miami's a 9-point favorite over Duke. I'm taking Duke. Duke comes back and they win a game. Duke's a good team. They've lost 3 games. They're 4-3 right now, but they could easily be, 6-1 or 6-1. They could easily be 5-2 right now. I'm taking Duke to beat Miami.
I agree with that.
Yeah, mine's Syracuse.
Syracuse is mine too.
For sure. If I had to pick another game before that, I mean, I don't know. UCLA, it's only 6. It's only 6, but I mean, UCLA would probably be the other one. That's the only other one on my radar. I guess the real, if we think Mississippi State's that good, I mean, Mississippi State would probably be another good pick too.
Yeah.
Plus 21.
I'm rolling with Syracuse, though. I think Syracuse definitely covers the spread. And honestly, I think they're going to win outright. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good week of football. I'm excited. There's going to be some upsets. Some more undefeateds are going to go down. That's for sure. And hopefully it just keeps going the way it's going because it has been so wonderful so far. Y'all got any final thoughts before we close out today?
Nope. I'm good. It was a great week. I'm excited about this week. 3:30. Get 4 TVs. I'm sure Tyler will have you over. Nikki will love to see y'all. So just come on. He's got a cute baby that you can play with. Who just don't yell too loud because I think I scared her pretty bad this week.
Dustin had her right when Alabama missed the kick, and we all were like
this.
We all were yelling, and Amelia just loses it.
But
yeah,
good week. We'd love to hear y'all's comments, and y'all keep commenting and keep posting stuff. And again, send us your Final Four by 8:00. Send it to Tyler. 8:00 on Friday, and we'll get them together so we can have them on the show next week and kind of pick apart your top 4. And if you get them all right, you get a prize. So we're excited about that. Y'all have a good week.
See y'all.